Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Sunday. I hope the weekend is going well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. It is an Arsenal free weekend, of course, but we've not got too long to wait until they return to action. The Champions League on Tuesday night. Huge game. This takes on even bigger importance, doesn't it? Because of what's gone on in terms of the Premier League in the last week or so. Really must not lose game, this one for Arsenal. Obviously, it's two legs, so it's not decided on Tuesday night, but you don't want to be coming home from the Netherlands on Tuesday with any sort of deficit to overturn, really, given Arsenal's current form in front of goal. It wouldn't give you much confidence that they could overturn it. So it's a really big game. Got to stay in it. Absolutely essential. Got to stay in it. So we're going to talk about that in today's show. Look at some of the decisions facing Mikel Arteta in terms of his team, his system, maybe. I got lots of reaction from you guys on the Joshua Kimmich transfer stuff we were talking about yesterday. We're going to talk a little bit about Fabio Vieira as well. He scored a really good goal last night for Porto, having a good little run of form in recent weeks, Fabio Vieira, as well. So plenty to get stuck into. A little bit tired, a little bit croaky. Had a few beers with mate's birthday last night. Also WWE Elimination Chamber last night. So I watched some of that as well. So yeah, I've got barely any sleep. So struggling. Won't give any spoilers for any WWE fans who haven't seen it yet. I'm sure there's plenty of you who do watch this channel. So no spoilers at all. But yeah, that was quite an ending. Anyway, so right, let's talk, shall we, about PSV on Tuesday night. Some big decisions, I think, facing Mikel Arteta. Ben White is one of them, I think. You know, Ben White has been eased back in the last couple of games. Obviously, got some minutes against West Ham, got more minutes against Nottingham Forest. I don't think it's going to be too long until we see Ben White come back into the starting 11. I think Mikel will be quite keen to get him in there because of what he can add, certainly attacking-wise at a time when Arsenal are struggling to attack. I think he'll probably think it might be able to unlock a bit more of Martin Odegaard as well because of that understanding that the pair of them have got. Obviously, there's no Bukayo Saka to sort of complete that triple threat of right-sided attack that Arsenal have. But I think just bringing Ben White back into it certainly would hope might unlock a little bit more in terms of Martin Odegaard's output. I wouldn't be surprised if Tuesday night is the night we see this. Obviously, it depends on what the medical staff say and whether they think he's ready to go maybe sort of 60 minutes, 70 minutes. None of this is a slight on Jurien Timber, by the way, who I think has been very, very good this season for Arsenal. But it will be good to see Ben White come back into the fold just because of what I think he'll add to this team. So I think that's a really important decision. Obviously, there's far more than just Ben White when it comes to the sort of decisions facing Mikel Arteta. I've put together a couple of sort of systems and teams on the screen if you're watching on YouTube here. I mean, on the left is the one that we've kind of come to know and expect, the sort of 4-3-3, however you want to describe it, system of, you know, and if he goes that way and he plays Timber at right back, you've got Lewis Skelly coming back in at left back, then the Party, Rice, Odegaard midfield, and then, you know, the sort of classic front three at the moment of Ranieri with Marino and Trossard. That's probably the system and the team that most of us, I think, would probably expect on Tuesday night. There are other options, as I've spoken about before. If you look at the one on the right, that's a kind of 3-4-2-1 formation, however you want to call it, 5-2-2-1, however you want to do it with the wing back. So I've got there sort of Calafiori, Gabriel, and Saliba. Obviously, it could be Gabriel, Saliba, Timber as the back three, and then you're playing wing backs really with Lewis Skelly or Kieran Tierney as the left wing back, Ben White as the right wing back, and then Partey and Rice sort of holding in front of the three centre backs, and then you can play Odegaard and Ranieri or Odegaard and Trossard, even if you want to, as a sort of two behind Marino, or you could play Trossard as the sort of central striker, have Odegaard and Ranieri behind him. Just try something a little bit more different. Try and maybe get Odegaard and Ranieri more central and closer to goal at the moment, because you just need to score some goals. And what we've seen in the last two games, Arsenal are just struggling to do that, clearly, and not just do that, they're struggling to even get shots on target at the moment. So maybe if you can move Ranieri centrally so he gets more of a sight of goal during the games, that's something that you could do. You could maybe have someone playing alongside off Marino for the knockdowns as well, and Ranieri or a Trossard, whoever it is. The wing backs can offer you the sort of width that you'd be lacking without Ranieri sort of hugging the touchline, or Trossard out on the left hugging the touchline. It's the formation that you will know that I've said for a while that I think Arsenal should be certainly trying in this little period of time. I don't think it will happen. I think he'll probably more lean towards the one that he's known for. Just on This sort of decisions. I mean, I've got Partey in that team there. I think Partey will come back into the side for this one. Obviously, sat it out against Notts Forest. Jorginho played there. I thought Jorginho was good in the game. I mean, I think Jorginho is always good when he plays. I just think he's a really good player. So I wouldn't be against Jorginho starting as well. But I think I'd be bringing Thomas Partey back into this game. He's had his rest against Nottingham Forest, which is important. I think he comes back in for this game. In whatever formation you play. Calafiori is an interesting one because obviously he got replaced at half-time against Nottingham Forest after that yellow card. But what he was offering in attack in that first half at Nottingham Forest was really, really interesting. The positions he was popping up into was causing Nottingham Forest a lot of problems. He obviously hit the post. He set up the chance for Nwaneri, who chose not to shoot in that position when he probably should have done. But it was nice play from Calafiori in a central area to slip the ball through to him. So, I've got there that Lewis Skelly comes back in at left back, but it could be that Calafiori continues and kind of rotates with Marino like he did, because honestly, at times it was like Marino was playing the inverted left back role against Nottingham Forest in that first half, and it was Calafiori who was playing as a central striker. And like I said, it worked in a way because Nottingham Forest were really, really struggling to deal with him. So you've got that decision to make as well. You've got the forward decision to make. Do you stick with Marino? I thought Marino actually played well against Nottingham Forest. He wasn't really playing as a standard centre forward. As I said, he was dropping very, very deep. He was out on the left-hand side at times. He was sort of roaming around, but he was trying his best to get into the central areas. Do you stick with that, or would you give Trossard another go? If you do that, probably means you've got to start Raheem Sterling. There's an argument that Raheem Sterling might be more useful from the start at the moment than he is from the bench, because he's just not really doing anything when he comes off the bench. There's no impact at all. So you're just struggling to change the game in any sort of way when you're bringing Sterling on in the second half. Maybe you start him, and that allows you then to change something off the bench in the second half by bringing on a Marino. And it's a tough situation. With Sterling, he's so out of form. He's just offering barely anything when he's on the pitch. It's like, how do you use him best? Because Arsenal are so stretched right now. You still need to use him just to almost take some minutes away from other players. So those are the decisions facing Mikel. I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Aaron's got in touch here, says, against PSV, I would go with the following formation. So the formation Aaron has gone with is White, Saliba, Gabriel, and Calafiori sticking at left back. You've got Rice as the number 6, and then Odegaard and MLS as the two sort of 8s, and then Nwaneri, Marino, and Trossard. And Aaron says, Calafiori is only nominally the fullback in this formation. He should have a very free role, and MLS can cover for him when he roams free. He can be the chaos factor we are missing up front. White instead of Timber could help bring the right-hand side to life. Odegaard's and White's chemistry will help Nwaneri definitely as well, which is kind of what I was talking about, why it wouldn't surprise me if this is the game that we see Ben White return to the starting 11. Interesting there, the sort of shout of moving MLS up into that sort of left 8 role and have him dropping deep for when Calafiori does those runs on. I'm quite interested by, we've got to try something, haven't we? That's the thing. The situation we're in, it's so dire when it comes to attacking options. So you've got to try something to try and get more out of this team. That what we've done in the last couple of weeks, or certainly a couple of games, hasn't really worked. And maybe that is a good option. You can have MLS to drop in there for when Calafiori does roam forward, or just having MLS in the final third. He might be able to do something to unlock PSV as well. I still think Partey comes back into this team, though. I have to say, I think that's probably the reason he was rested against Nottingham Forest with one eye on this PSV game. But thank you very much there, Aaron, for getting in touch on that one. Appreciate it. And like I said, for the rest of you, for tomorrow's show, give me your thoughts on what you would do for PSV, the decisions facing Arteta. What do you think he should go with? Team, formation? Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. This was how PSV set up yesterday. They lost, actually. PSV. They've got 4 games without a win now, I think, PSV. They've only won 2 of the last 6. Interestingly, they were against Feyenoord and against Juventus, but they lost to go-ahead Eagles yesterday, 3-2. It was a really big defeat for them in terms of the title race. It's given Ajax a real advantage. And this is how they set up. So they went in the 4-2-3-1 system. There's not much about PSV that Arsenal aren't going to know. Obviously, they played against them a couple of times last season, beat them handsomely at the Emirates, and it was 1-1, I think. Eddie Nketiah scored in the away game. It was a game that PSV were by far and away the better team. Arsenal played them before that as well. The PSV are a team that Arsenal know all about. They know about the threat of Luke de Jong and how when they go sort of long to him and get balls into the box, how he can cause problems. He's caused Arsenal problems in the past. And so there's not going to be too much that Arsenal don't know about them. Like I said, they're not in the greatest of form. Maybe they'll look at that sort of if they're playing 4-2-3-1 and just got the two sort of holding midfielders. Arsenal look and wonder if they could sort of take control of that position of the pitch, maybe with an extra man, something like that, to sort of start dominating midfield. Certainly going to be interesting. Just want a goal. Like I said, they've got to stay in this game. They can't afford to end up, this going wrong, losing 2-0 and having to come back with the Emirates with a bit of a mountain to climb, because it just doesn't look, from what we've seen so far, that they've got the goal threat to be able to come back from a deficit like that. So this is a hugely important game, this first leg for Arsenal. Got to stay in it. Got to find a way to get through this tie and then give yourself a chance, albeit a small one, against either one of the Madrid teams in the next round. But maybe at least one of the two, Saka or Martinelli, will be back. So maybe you'll be a little bit stronger in the next round in terms of the attacking options. But just getting through against PSV, absolutely vitally important. Right, moving on to Fabio Vieira. Just wanted to chat about him while we're talking about Arsenal's attacking options. Give him some flowers for a really nice goal. I saw him score yesterday. He's having a good little run of form recently. It's been an up and down sort of loan spell for Fabio Vieira back in Porto. I think it probably hasn't gone quite as well as Arsenal would have hoped for. There's been the sort of disciplinary issues with him during it as well. So I'm not sure Arsenal would have been delighted with how the loan spell's gone. But he is beginning to find some form now at a crucial stage of the season. Of course, it's beginning to heat up in terms of the title race in Portugal. And he scored a really important second goal for Porto in their win yesterday. Really nice goal as well. Received it sort of out wide on the right-hand side and a bit of a counter-attack. Drove towards the box, cut inside onto his left foot like he normally does. And instead of whipping it into the far corner like we've seen him do before, he sort of got the whip back more sort of near post, put it right in the corner. Really clean strike from Vieira. Lovely goal as well. Going to be interesting to see how he gets on. If he's really beginning to find his groove now in the final sort of 2-3 months of the season, going to be interesting to see what he can do, Fabio Vieira. Arsenal haven't absolutely wiped their hands or washed their hands with Fabio Vieira. The fact that there was no sort of buy option included in this deal suggested that they weren't quite ready to make a decision on whether it was the end for him at Arsenal yet. I would suggest, just as a hunch, not based on information, that it probably is. And if they could get a good amount of money in for him in the summer, it's probably something they would look to take. But, he is a talented player, Fabio Vieira, no doubt about it. Physically, can he handle the Premier League? That's the sort of big question. But when it comes to sort of technique and talent, we know he's got it. He's a very good player in that regard. So, yeah, interesting to see how he gets on in the last sort of 3 months of the season, Fabio. If he can really sort of finish well, then he might sort of force his way into Arsenal's thinking in the summer. And if he doesn't, then he might certainly raise that value if Arsenal do decide to try and cash in on him in the summer. But good to see him on the target yesterday in that game. I was watching elsewhere, sort of yesterday's football. Obviously, no Arsenal, so I was watching the FA Cup. Good to see Eddie Nketiah. What a header that was. He scored 2 brilliant headers this season, Eddie Nketiah. The one against Arsenal, obviously, in the League Cup at the Emirates. But that one yesterday, fantastic header right back into the far corner. By the way, Mateta, I'm so glad he's, well, I say he's okay. He's obviously had a pretty hefty whack and has had an operation, had about 20 odd stitches in his ear. But my God, that could have been so much worse. If you haven't seen it yet, what happened to Mateta is unbelievable from the goalkeeper, the Millwall goalkeeper, coming in, studs up, face first. Luckily, sort of caught the side of him. If he caught square on the front, I dread to think what would have happened to Mateta and the injury he could have suffered in that game. Michael Oliver, who was a referee, shock, played on. He didn't even give a foul. It went to VAR. It had to go to VAR to decide, yeah, this was a dangerous challenge. I'm going to send him off. This is the same Michael Oliver who somehow saw a red card against Lewis Skelly as serious foul play. And then this one, he was staring right at it. And the goalkeeper literally kung fu kicks Mateta in the head. And you think how big Mateta is. So that is a seriously high foot. And he doesn't do anything. It's just, honestly, Michael Oliver, it's just mad. He's supposed to be our best referee. He's always quoted by all the pundits and stuff as one of our best 2 referees in the country, blah, blah, blah. I think the evidence that we're seeing for ourselves here is that he is definitely not one of the best referees in this country. He is just imagining things, or he's just missing things all the time. Just bizarre, totally bizarre how that was not seen at the time when you're staring right at it, a red card situation. But I'm just thankful that Mateta is okay in that game. But yeah, sorry, I digress onto that. But Eddie Nketiah, good to see him scoring a couple of goals recently, Eddie, because it's been a tough season for him, no doubt about that. So it's good to see him getting a couple of goals. From one former Arsenal striker to another, actually, Mika Biereth. Mason's got in touch. He says, "Hey Charles, have you seen the score and form of Mika Biereth since he's gone to Monaco? 3 hat-tricks in a row at home. Could have been the perfect player to have given us a chance to be given the lack of attackers we have." Yeah, I mean, it's all hindsight, isn't it? Mika Biereth left a fair while ago. To be fair, any striker would have been perfect right now that Arsenal have had in the last few years would have been perfect right now because we haven't got any. Fair play to Mika Biereth. What a great start to him he's had at Monaco. But yeah, I don't know if he'd have been perfect for Arsenal. Who knows if he would have scored when he was here, if he was still here now. But it's very easy just to go back at any sort of striker in the last few years and say, oh, we should have kept him because he's scoring some goals elsewhere now. And also, look, Balogun went off, scored a hell of a lot of goals, and everyone at that time was like, oh, we should have kept him. It's not exactly gone great for him since he's made the move to Monaco, is it? So good to see Mika Biereth scoring goals anyway. For Monaco, would it be useful now? Yes, but any striker, to be fair, would have been useful now. It's not going to make me sort of suddenly think, oh, it was the wrong decision for Arsenal to sell Mika Biereth at that time. But still, yeah, good to see him saying. Aaron here has got in touch about Kimmich. He said Kimmich should be a must-sign option if we can. This is obviously in response to what we were talking about yesterday in the news from Germany that Arsenal are interested in Kimmich on a free transfer in the summer. Aaron continues saying Kimmich is not the young profile, as you said, but brings world-class experience and versatility. One thing that worries me is he's already hesitated to receive the 22 million euro salary offer. Arsenal can't afford that much for Kimmich, even if he's signing on a free and Partey and Jorginho leaving. Unless Kimmich is wanting new challenges abroad, it might make it difficult to strike, as PSG also interested. PS, do you think Dowman will be considered as a first-team option next season? He'll get a debut, that's for sure. I don't mean he should start games next season, but he'll be on the bench a lot of times and make multiple appearances. His talent looks way too big for the youth team. I think he'll definitely be an option next season. I think I wouldn't have been at all surprised if he would have played this season if regulations allowed, but Arsenal couldn't change those regulations, so he's not been able to play. But yeah, I think if he stays, if he signs, or if he's going to be still so young, he's not even going to be able to sign a pro contract even next season. But if he starts, there's going to be lots of interest in Max Dowman. There is lots of interest in Max Dowman. Arsenal certainly want him to sign. So it's kind of probably be similar to what we saw with Ranieri when he was that sort of age. He'll get his go. He'll get a couple of goes maybe. He'll get dipped into around the first team picture next season. So yeah, I don't think he'll be going out on loan, but and I do think he will be seen as an option at times next season. Arsenal will start to drip feed him into the first team picture. One from John James Punton said, "Hey Charles, Arsenal fan here, long time listener, but don't usually leave comments. However, my girlfriend is a Bayern München fan, so I tend to also watch a lot of their games. I've said for a couple of years now that Kimmich would be a fantastic signing for us and fits the Arteta profile perfectly. Versatile, technically gifted, great passer, great at those final delivery balls, incredible workhorse, and demonstrates leadership abilities. He also steps up in big moments. I know a striker is a priority, but so is replacing Jorginho and Partey. So I assume people won't be overly happy about us being linked to midfield or fullback. However, when someone of Kimmich's caliber becomes available, we need to act on it quickly. Keep up the good work." Charles, thank you very much, John, and thank you for leaving a comment. Yeah, I mean, I can't really disagree with that. Like I said, look, obviously the attack is a priority for Arsenal. We all want to see attackers signed this summer, and attackers will be signed this summer. They have to be. But that doesn't mean you can't sign other players. You have to sign other players, especially if Partey and Jorginho both go. Arsenal need to replace two hugely important, influential, experienced players in the squad. So that has to be a priority as well. It can't just be, we have to sign all the attackers. There is other areas of the squad that needs to be worked on as well in the summer, and midfield is absolutely a key part of that. So I agree with what you said there, John. Thank you very much. Few more reactions here to Kimmich before we end this one today. Run through these. Max says we need numbers and pace and finishing in the front three before considering a 30-year-old inverted fullback 6. Kimmich is a good player, but shouldn't be our priority. I go back to what I just said just now. Yes, the priority has to be attack. We know that, but you have to also focus elsewhere in the squad. You can't just forget about the other positions, especially if you're losing Jorginho and Partey, which we don't know for certain is happening, but it looks likely it probably will. Sea Lord says, I like Kimmich, but for me, it has to be either him or Zubimendi, then another attacking midfielder, say Naipan, with Rice, Odegaard, Marino, and Ranieri. That seems like good number and balanced players. Then use most of the rest of the resources for what we need, more attackers. Caleb says, Kimmich seems like a direct Partey replacement. Centre midfield, right back, lets us use Timber and White to give Saliba more breaks if needed. Still need that left centre midfield, left attacker midfield, Verts type attacking midfielder. Florian Wirtz, I would be here for that. Don't think that's going to happen, though. Langland says, Kimmich also has the most chances created along with Grimaldo in the Bundesliga this season. He would represent a breath of fresh air to our stiff midfield, take the burden off Odegaard, and offer on-field versatility in midfield, being able to dovetail with either Rice or Zubimendi, as well as the ability to play right back. I'm sure that will make Arteta smile. Yeah, and then the Englishman says, he's 30. What's the point? We've been signing some right duffers recently. He's Jesus Zinchenko. We need a decent director of football. I agree with you on that last comment. I think that's a bit harsh on Jesus and Zinchenko. Look, at the time, they were great signings for Arsenal, and they worked. They changed Arsenal completely. They started this big sort of resurgence back to being a title contender. Did it work out long term? Not really. Zinchenko lost his form, and Arteta sort of lost his trust in him. Jesus just got injured. But, I go, those first few months of Jesus, when he was at his best, when he was fit and available, when his knee wasn't busted, he was sensational. He's one of the most transformative players I've ever seen come into an Arsenal team. The difference that he made in those first few months was incredible. It was a completely brand new looking Arsenal. And that was so much down to Jesus. I mean, I listened to Mark Gahey the other day, was talking about when on that first game of the season when Arsenal went to Crystal Palace and Jesus played up front on his debut, his league debut. And Mark Gahey said he just didn't know what was going on for that first 45 minutes. Jesus was the best he's ever played against. And it was the first time I saw him, because I missed that Palace game. I was in Portugal. I came back and I went to the Bournemouth game when Saliba scored his first goal. And I just couldn't believe what I was watching in terms of how good Jesus was. And he was like that all the way up to the World Cup. He was unbelievable. Even if the goals dried up a little bit in those sort of 8 games, whatever, before the World Cup, he was still incredible. And then obviously he went to World Cup, his knee blew out, and he's never been the same player since, obviously. And that's a crying shame. But he wasn't a duffer when Arsenal signed him. He was a fantastic signing who made a completely transformed this Arsenal team. And unfortunately, injuries have put paid to that, which is unfortunate. But I think calling him a right duffer, I think that's really, really harsh, I have to say. Right, and that's it from me today, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it as always. I'll be back in the morning. Do it all over again. Anything you want me to discuss, get down into the comments as always, and I will pull them together and get them included in tomorrow's show. Have a good end to the weekend. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.